It's such amazing energy. So it's a real privilege to be back. So thank you so much. Yeah, I'm going to give a quick intro, which is a bit of a recap of what we talked about at the conference, but I'll condense it down into about 10 minutes. And then Seb will actually take you through a proper demonstration of the software. And if you've got questions, put them in the chat, as well as at the end. I'm sure we'll have some time for a bit of back and forth. So very quickly, OOOBY, it stands for out of our own backyards. And I'll just share my screen there. Can everyone see that? Great. Okay, so we're an e-commerce platform for small farms and food producers. And our mission is to put small scale back at the heart of this food system. The basic history, the way we look at it is for 10,000 years, small scale food has fed the entire population of the planet until about 80 years ago, when the food system started to be centralized and corporatized. And in that time, we have seen a rise in a lot of problems, social problems, health problems, and so on. And so we had a very durable and reliable, healthy food system for most of the agricultural era. And I think that we want to get back to that to a degree, but using technology is the way we see that small scale can reclaim market share and reposition themselves at the heart of the food system. So this little chart here just shows an 80-year time frame to give you a sense of how quickly things have changed in the scheme of things. That only sort of around pre-World War II, small scale over-the-counter or home delivered food even was the main way people did their shopping. Of course, most of them grew all their own veggies in their backyard. But then in came the supermarket model, which has become the dominant paradigm that most of us have experienced in our lifetimes. But that's actually now starting to be disrupted by online shopping. And the beautiful thing about online shopping is that it levels the playing field, and it allows for small scale producers to get back into the game, because they don't have to own massive amounts of land and big supermarket buildings and so forth in order to have access to the market. They can just have a website, and it's a way for you as a small scale producer to reclaim that connection with the customer. So what we provide is a digital platform where you can do all of your sales direct to households and businesses in your local area, primarily households, where you're getting the full retail value. And so customers can shop on your website using the OOOBY platform. And then the OOOBY system does all of the logistical management for you to be able to handle fulfillment. And that's doing the sort of the harvesting, the picking, the packing, the dispatch, the deliveries in a way where you don't really need to have the skill set of knowing how to do sales and distribution in order to do this in a really simple way, in a very cost-effective way. So that's what we provide, is that platform that's been purpose-built for your type of business model. And we've road tested it for well over a decade. Millions of transactions have been happening on the OOOBY platform, and it just continues to get better. One of the topics that I really want to focus in on and make a very clear point about here is that what we're doing with OOOBY is we're helping to bring small-scale food producers out from a situation of largely exploitation with the current food system. The current main sort of supply chains tend to be quite extractive. And so you often, farmers will sell their food at like 20 cents in the dollar, and the supply chain takes all that up, and farmers are finding themselves to be in a kind of not a very strong negotiating position. With OOOBY now enabling you, and platforms like us enabling you to be able to sell direct, it enables you to get back on your feet and regain sort of independence and autonomy in the market. But what we don't want to have happen is that the platform that enables a kind of a liberation from what would otherwise be quite an exploitative food system, that platform itself gets bought out and hijacked by another large corporate interest to only do the same thing and start to hike the prices up and start to sort of take centralized control over the food system. So we are running what's called a steward ownership model, which you could otherwise phrase as like a user ownership model, where voting, where we have self-governance and profits for purpose. So people can invest in OOOBY and they can benefit from investing and getting a return on their capital, but they can't control the company. They've got non-voting shares and they have a capped return on their investment. And then anything, once the investors are paid back, it's the users of the platform, similar to a cooperative, that get the benefits of the platform in the long run. So it protects the farmers and small scale producers from exploitation. It enables a sort of a trusted long-term partnership, and it also shares the rewards over the long term with the people who are creating the value on the platform. And that's a really important point. And the reason I sort of harp in on it is because there's typically, with digital platforms, there's sort of two ways that it can sort of make money, so to speak. And one way is that it offers a really good service and it charges for that service, and the revenue it generates is the money that it makes, and any profit that it has is the value that it's created beyond its expenses. And that's one way of making money in business, standard business. But digital platforms are notorious for going out there and selling their product at a loss, at a very low price, at a loss, because they're not looking to make money through the fees. What they're looking to do is actually just get all the users on, and instead of you being the customer, you become the product, and then the platform itself gets sold to a bigger fish, and then that bigger fish has its way. So we have got a very long-term view on the way that the food system can thrive, and it's got to be protected. In our opinion, it's got to be protected from a hijacking and just putting things back into the same situation we're in. So that's why we have steward ownership. It locks in the purpose, it locks in our mission, and it shares and protects you guys, and it shares the long-term rewards. To give you a quick view, we've in 2020 we set up our first hub in Bristol, or worked with our first farm in Bristol, and since then it's been growing quite rapidly. There's over 100 farms and food hubs running on the platform, over 10 million pounds worth of sales happening, 40,000 deliveries per month. And so there's a rising trend of small farms bypassing the normal channels to market and diversifying their channels to market to be able to go online and start to claim market share. So that's what we're here to present tonight. And it's all about reclaiming market share. And the three sort of key points to that are, one, that because of the savings that are made by selling direct to the customer and not going through a convoluted, expensive supply chain, you're able to actually compete on price, which is really important. Because of the system the technology means that customers can do their shopping from their phone, and it facilitates things like home delivery and so forth. You're able to compete on convenience. And the third part is that as the network and the number of farmers and food producers on the platform grow, we've got a bigger voice, and we're able to get a message out there to raise awareness. And we know that shoppers out there, people out there, are becoming more and more savvy when it comes to buying the food that they want to eat. And there's a huge demand that is now getting tapped through building the awareness. So that's my rant. I'm going to hand over to Seb now, and he's going to give you a bit of a demo of how the system actually works.
Yeah, thanks, Pete. Do you want to unshare?
Sharing my screen, yeah, just 2 secs. There we go.
Okay, hang on a minute. Let me just share mine. There we go. Hopefully you can see that. Okay, is that visible, Pete?
Yep.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay. So yeah, good evening, everyone. Thank you. Thank you, Kitty. Thank you, everybody. So what you can see here is the dashboard. So if you are using the OOOBY system to run operations, you would log into your dashboard, and this is what you're faced with. And just to point out that I have a veg box scheme called Hampshire Veg Box. This is fake data though, so we're using the template of Hampshire Veg Box, but it's fake data. So for tonight and tonight only, I am Ashton. But all these numbers and the dates and all those sort of thing, and any customer details you see are not real. So I'm just going to take you through a little bit about the dashboard here. So we have this in the center here. We have the upcoming live preview of the order cycles, the upcoming order cycles. So we can see the dates, we can see the current numbers of orders, we can see the actions that need to be taken in each of those weeks, and we can navigate through to that particular week using this arrow here. On the left-hand side, I can see all the different sections that I can navigate to depending on what I'm needing to do on the system. And the four main sections that are really key to everything, and the ones that you would be using day in, day out, week in, week out to run operations, is the customer section for customer management, the orders section for really running the weekly orders. So getting the preview of the orders, and then managing the weighing and the packing and the delivery, or collections, depending on how you run things. The product management. So if you have your set boxes, for example, you might have set veg boxes or other types of food box. And then you might have add-ons as well that you'd be giving people the opportunity, or customers the opportunity, to add extras onto, as well as getting a set box, for example. And then billing is for managing the payments through the system. So the system works on, we integrate with Stripe, so it works on recurring card payments. So when a customer signs up to your scheme, they would add in their card details securely, and that it's as simple as that. From then on, they are billed weekly as part of your normal billing cycle. So I am going to focus on these four sections as part of this demo, and there are lots and lots and lots of features that are very specific to this sort of business model, and a lot of edge case features that we can't go over all of those right now. So I'm going to pick out the key parts of each of these sections, and then it might be that there are questions afterwards that sort of might focus in on some specifics that haven't been covered at the time. So I'm going to focus first on the customer section. So we can see up in the top bar there that we have a customer search bar, and I can type in 3 letters of a customer's name. It brings up a drop down of all the different customers that fit those 3 letters, and I can navigate through to a customer overview. So this just gives me details around that particular customer, and I can see their customer details, when they last logged in, when they joined. I can send an email directly to the customer from here. So when you start using the system, we link your business email address up into the system, so that if somebody was to come in here and press send email, they can instantly use the email tool. They can add images and hyperlinks and things and write an email to that particular customer. In the same way, you can send bulk emails to particular groups of customers that you can filter in lots of different ways, or you could send an email out to every one of your customers at once, active or not. I can also go into more options, and I could edit details, and that could include adding discounts, for example, for a particular customer. Down here, we can see the account section, and there's lots of things that I can do. I can see their current balance. I can see what their how many total purchases they've had, that sort of thing. And if I hover over more options, I can view their transaction history. I can do things that the customer can also do their end. So I can edit payment details and update card details, for example. And I can also add additional credits or debits to the balance on their account if something happened that required that. So let's say, for example, that an item was damaged in transit to when delivering to that customer. I can come into credit account, and I could type in, let's say, €2 for that particular customer. I could put the credit code as transit damage. I could add a note for internal use so that we know what the reason was for that, and I can press credit customer, and that would automatically add a credit to the balance on their account. And in the same way, I can add an additional debit to the balance on the account as well, and then I could directly and immediately charge or refund the customer's card as well if need be. On the subscription summary, I can do things for the customer that the customer can also do for themselves. So for example, you can set up order pauses or skip orders in any way you want for your customers. And so if I press on skip orders, this could be so a customer can do this their end on their dashboard, and then I can also do it for a customer on my side if they were to email and ask you to do it for them. So let's say that they said they were going away in February and they would like to pause their orders for a couple of weeks. I can come in here and I can pause their orders for 2 weeks, for example. And then let's say they were also going away in the summer, I could go forward and I could also pause their orders there as well, which they can also do themselves. And actually you can set up donations so that you can give your customers a chance to pause their transactions or donate their box while they're away. So pause their box, but keep paying and donate if you have a relationship with a good cause, for example. And I can do things like editing their box for them or editing their orders. And then I can have activity notes on here. So this will give me typically all the activities, a record of all the activities on that customer's account as they, from the point at which they subscribed all the way through. And I've added there's an activity here, there's a note here that I've put on there. I've said that I want to make a feedback call, get in touch with that customer on the 29th of January to find out how they found their initial experience with the box scheme. And that will remind me, that will add a note on the front page that will flag it up for me to do that on that day. So that's just a little bit about the customers. And at the same time, with the advanced search in customer, this is a time-saving tool. I can search and filter customers in lots of different ways. So for example, I could find a group of customers that have ordered a particular product. And there are 3 actions that I could do once I found that list of customers. So I could, for example, download a CSV of all those customers if I needed to interrogate the data a bit more closely. I could do a bulk credit to all those customers all at once. And I can also send an email to all those customers all at once. So it's a real time-saving tool. And you can filter in lots of different ways all at the same time to really get specific about the customers that you need to find in order to action something at that particular point. So this is really useful if, on the morning when you're delivering and you're packing and you suddenly realize that you haven't got enough of a particular product, a particular item that's been ordered. How do you let those people know? How do you credit them? Rather than doing it manually and trying to find each one, you could come in here, filter the group of customers, send an email, do a credit. Within a minute or 2, you've sorted all of that out. So that's a real good time-saving device. With orders, as I said, orders are really where you manage really the engine room of the whole system, where you manage that weekly cycle of weighing, packing, and delivering. Just to show you in settings, this is where, when you're setting up on the system, where you would add in and record different collection points that you want to set up using the system and give your customers options to select, and also different delivery routes if you're handling household delivery. So you'd set all that in here, the timings and the instructions for customers, all of that sort of thing. And then you'd actually set up as well, you'd map the delivery area. So this is just an example of a delivery area that's been mapped by a particular veg box scheme. They've got 3 different delivery routes in there. And what that means is once that's been set, that when customers start online, they put in their address and they're given the options. If they're outside of the delivery area, they obviously wouldn't be given household delivery as an option, but they would be given the different collection points to select from. If they're inside the delivery area, they would be able to choose from either household delivery or the different collection points that they might be able to choose from, or one or the other. So that's all automated once it's set up in the system. And within the orders section, we're able to see a preview of the orders coming up, and we can go into the next order week, for example. So this is next or just this coming Wednesday, and I can see all the different items that are on order as a preview. And I could do things like I could go into produce details, and I could view my master list of all the produce that I could be adding into the box. And this is a great way of adding a preview of the box to the customer dashboards if you wanted to do that. So here I have all the different items I've already added in to the different box sizes, so that then I can do 2 things with that information. I could choose to publish that as a preview to the customer's dashboard so that they can log in and see what's coming in their size box that they have in their next order, to enable them to plan, recipes and other shopping that they might want to do. I don't have to do that if I don't want to, and sometimes a market gardener who might be just relying on the produce that they pick out of the ground might decide that they prefer to keep it as a surprise, just in case something doesn't come out of the ground the way they want it. But the other thing that you can do, this enables you to be able to generate a harvest list. So once the orders are closed and locked in, you can download and view a harvest list of all the different produce that you need for the week and how much you need to be able to fulfill all the orders, including any add-on orders that have been have taken place online before the orders close. So that's again a really great tool. Once the orders close, it moves the information through to active orders, and this now has locked in those orders, and it allows us to do everything we need to be able to pack and deliver. What it also does is at the point that the orders close, it uses a Google Maps algorithm to set the most efficient routes for your household delivering. So if I just view details here, I can see, for example, there's this Winchester route that's been set in, and that's calculated pretty much instantly the most efficient route around those 65 different deliveries for that day. So I can see that it's about 120 kilometers, and it's going to take about 6 hours 45 minutes to undertake and carry out that delivery route for this particular delivery driver. And this delivery driver here, Anne, she can come along and she can log in on her phone, and she can be directed using Google Maps from the first drop to the second drop to the third drop, etc. And she can just be navigated and make the route as speedy and efficient as possible. Down here we can see all the numbers again for all the products that have been ordered. And at the bottom here, there's a number of buttons I can use to help. So there's different reports and different checklists that I can use to be able to print off or to be able to view, to be able to manage the weighing and the packing. The product manifest, for example, is that harvest list or that pick list or order list if you're ordering in from other suppliers as well. So that will give you by supplier, and by, for your own market garden, it will give you a download and a list of exactly the quantities of everything that you need. You can send a confirmation email from here. So if I press that button, it would send out an automated email to all your customers whenever you want. So at the start of the week, for example, just notifying them and confirming and reminding them of how much, what they've got on order and when they receive it and how much that is. And just to say that all the automated emails on the system are customizable. So it means that you can really have, an engineer, all that messaging in your own voice and your own tone. The other thing that's on there is box labels. So you can print box labels off. And if I just show you an example of this, so this allows you, once you press that button, to generate Avery type labels that you can print off on a normal printer. And you can view and print off these labels that you can stick onto the side of the boxes, so that you can see the packing team and the delivery team can instantly see who that box is for, what they have on order, what delivery route or collection point they're on, and any delivery notification or instructions that they've added when they've signed up. So for example, this person here has said, please leave outside front door if no one is home. So the delivery driver knows that. We can see that they've got a small box on order, so we know what we need to pack into that particular box. Over here, we can see this person has added free range eggs as part of their order as well. So this just gives us a really good summary and really good overview of everything that's required for that person. And then if there's a collection point, obviously when the customer comes along, they can easily identify which box is theirs as well. And just a quick note that this is a household delivery label, because it has obviously the address and any delivery instructions. The collection point labels are smaller because they don't need that information, but they just have the key information that you need to be able to carry out that collection. So that's just a quick note on that one. There's also a print routes button, which allows you to print out a run sheet. And again, this is a good backup for the ability to be able to access the route on a mobile phone. So you can print that off, and it gives you all the information that you need in the van as a piece of paper to be able to see who your next drop is for, what they've got, mobile number, that sort of thing, in case of any issues. And there's even a QR code that you can have on there. You can choose to have on there or not. If you have the QR code on there, it means the driver can come to the house. The person isn't in, they can scan the QR code. It generates an automatic text message that sends to the customer to let them know that their box has been dropped in their preferred place, preferred location. So moving on to products. The product section allows us to add any different categories that we want to add for the product section on the customer's dashboard and on the website. And this is just a a lot of examples of different categories that can be added. You might just have one category, which is extras, for example, or add-ons, if you just have a few products that you want to add or allow customers to add. But you might have lots of different categories if you have a large product range. And within here, you can then add your different products. And let's say, for example, here we have eggs. So this we've added in the name of the eggs, we've added in the unit amount, we've added in which category we'd like to put that in, we've added in the price, the visibility level, and we've also added in an image and a description. And then we've even got a location there, so we can map and put a pin on a map of where that product was produced, and then that will actually show the distance and how far away that product has come from. So it really kind of flags up and promotes to your customers how local the produce is, how local the food is. You don't have to use that, but it's there to be used, and it's a nice tool. So that's the way that you add products. And there's the ability when onboarding with OOOBY to be able to, if you have a lot of products to pull into the system, we can do an import of all the products at once with all the images and all the information so that it's all there ready to go. So that's products. Billing is very simple. You can choose whether you bill in advance or bill in arrears, and you bill usually on a weekly basis. When the time comes to be billed, the process is automated, and the customers will receive an automated email that just lets them know you are now going to be billed, and this is the amount that's going to be taken from your account. Then the payments are taken via Stripe, and you as the VegBox scheme, as the farmer, will receive a summary email that will tell you how much you've billed successfully in total. If there are any card declines, you'll see who that is. It'll list that in the email, and that person will also receive an automated email to let them know that that's taken place and asking them to get in contact with you. So it's all very automated. You can do things like, I mean, the system will automatically send out a reminder 4 weeks before a card is due to expire to that customer, reminding them so as to avoid a card decline, for example. And you can do things like set debt limits so that you can put a debt limit on all your customers so that it will allow them to go into a little bit of debt. If the card declines, for example, it won't put their account on a hold straight away. It will give them a little bit of a grace period. So you can set those sorts of things yourself. That is a very quick run through of those 4 sections. Pete, anything that you want to add to, because I know sometimes you itch a bit because there might be something that you tell people about that I don't, and vice versa. So anything there that you want to add?
No, nothing specific. The only thing that I would have pointed out was a little bit more of with the delivery routes, how you can sort of go in there, and because the algorithm figures out the optimal order of deliveries so that you spend the least amount of time driving and even organizing the order of deliveries. But sometimes you have local knowledge that our algorithm and Google Maps doesn't have. And so you can go in there and you can manually optimize it yourself. So you could do an adjust route order
So
where,
I can do an adjust route order. I can move a customer around if I wanted to, or more than one customer, to make slight adjustments. And we can see here, this is the route that's been set by the system, but I could also do a manual optimization. So I could clear that route off, and I can see the start and the end addresses there, and I could mark the route that I want to do. Obviously, this is quite a considerable size route, quite congested. So it would probably be unusual in this circumstance for somebody to want to change the route. It would make sense to use the Google Maps algorithm, I'd suggest. But sometimes in rural areas as well, if you know that a tree's down on a road or something like that, you might want to recalibrate the route, for example. And other things about the route is that if you're running 2 routes at the same time on the same day, you've got 2 different drivers, and then one driver calls in sick at the last minute, you can actually tell the system to combine those 2 routes into one total and most efficient route for the other driver to be able to carry out on the day. So there's those sorts of things as well. But as I say, there are lots of those edge case features, and probably you won't be able to cover them all now.
Yeah, there's tons. And that's the problem is, what we've shown you is probably 20% of what the system can do, but that's the 20% that covers 80% of, the functionality. But there's tons of edge cases because we've done, like I said, we built this software for ourselves when we were running our own VegBox schemes. with over 500 customers. And during the day, we'd be handling all the goods and doing all the packing and doing the deliveries. And then at the end of the day, Davey and I would sit down and go, what do we never have to want to do again? What could the system do that we didn't have to do? And we built the software against our own pain points by being in your shoes for like 9 years. So it covers a lot of those sorts of things that maybe only come up every now and then, but when they do come up, they're a real pain. And you'll find that the system is quite likely got something for those sorts of edge cases.
Yeah, guys, thanks a million for that. And to see everyone's very quiet. We don't have many questions in the chat
That's all
just
right.
yet. We'll see a few coming in, but it's really obvious like that this is software designed by people who've tried and tested, because as an individual small scale producer to try and get into that level of detail to do it independently, it would take, it would take a long time to get there. So, and I suppose the questions are coming in, and I'm just seeing one here, and I'll deal, Liam, with yours in a minute. I'm going to just start with one, if that's okay, because I presume a lot of people here are thinking about it as well, and just wondering what are the costs to users, or how does all of that work as well? Because it's obvious this is an amazing service, and I've only looked at it looking at other people's from a user shopper. It's so streamlined and so easy. But what kind of cost does this come to your customers or to the small scale producers?
Yeah, well,
Liza?
yeah, if you want to pull, actually, do you want to pull up the website, Seb, and go to the pricing page?
Yeah, sure. So I can just slide it up here.
Okay, look at that.
Hopefully you can.
That. There we go. So yeah, it's 1.9% of payments plus whatever the Stripe fees are. So in euros, Stripe is 1.3 plus 25 cents. But our platform fee is 1.9%. So the good thing about that is that if you're starting out small, you're not paying much. As you get bigger, you're paying more. But then we also have a tiered pricing model where the more volume you do, that 1.9% and the Stripe card fee will come down, so that you're gaining more efficiency as you grow your sales.
And obviously, if you're seasonal, then on the months that you're not, active, you won't be paying anything.
Yeah, it seems very fair. And then just a few questions coming in on the chat, and one from Nemo Driscoll. I suppose it's just wondering about how does the customer know they're getting fresh and safe food from a farm? So, let's say, do they have to be certified organic? I know here we have the Irish Food Board BIA, that sometimes they have their own trademark. So just wondering about that kind of transparency to customers. And is that something that ye deal with, or is that the farm themselves?
Yeah, we have an agreement. In fact, so if you go to the terms and conditions page back on the website, you go scroll to the
I'll
bottom
pull it
here.
up before
And anyone can, if you just go to ooby.com, this is you can see this website for yourself. So our position is that small scale ecologically sound food, and organic is obviously the gold standard of ecologically sound food. But as part of our terms and conditions, it's out down here. It says when producing food, it goes through a list of the expectations and the agreements of who uses the OOOBY platform and what for. And in there, one of the points that we make, which is quite clear, is, where is it? It's
not using chemicals and fertilizers,
exactly.
pesticides or herbicides.
Yeah. So if you're just wanting to buy, conventionally produced food with glyphosates and import them and try and sell that's not on, right? OOOBY's there to support small scale ecologically sound food producers, and we have a very clear line about that.
Okay. And then we have one here then from Catherine, wondering, does a customer have to be registered, or can they check out as a guest and pay as soon as they order?
Every customer needs to sign up with their details and their card. So yes, they do register. So they can't really sign in as a guest or as an anonymous, because they need to be able to put their address in there and their card details that correlate so that the payment will be not fraudulent. But it's very easy. Someone doesn't have to necessarily subscribe. They can just come in and buy one off if you want to allow that. So that's easy enough.
Yeah, so they might be ad hoc customers. So we have a number of customers who will have opted to have to customize their order. So they don't have a set box at any time. They choose what they want to add into their basket each time they want to shop for that particular week, and they will be the ones that will more likely dip in and dip out as and when they would like to make a purchase. And that allows them to do that, is have the one-off option rather than the sort of set and forget of a weekly or fortnightly subscription, for example.
Yeah, we find that it's an interesting balance. You know, the customers who subscribe, the subscription customers usually sort of make up around 80% of your sales, and they're very predictable sales because they're subscribed. And so you can depend on a certain amount of sales, you know, going out into the future every week. But then you have what we call casual shoppers who will come and go. And they tend to put larger orders in, like the average transaction value tends to be higher, and they're great customers in that regard. But their boxes tend to be, you know, you don't know for sure if they're going to come. They're like the icing on the cake.
Great. And then we have Barry McDevitt, who's saying great platform, guys, and just wondering about the scope for like a couple of growers collaborating on the platform to present a single box to the customer.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, there are examples. We have examples of that already, where a couple of growers have come together. Actually, we have one example where two growers were running two separate businesses on the platform, and then they lived close to each other and decided that it would work for them. They both had young families, and they decided it would work for them well to collaborate. So they've done that. They've collaborated, and it's working really well for them. We also have, for example, Kent Food Hubs, who they work with a large number of producers, and they have one person who administers the platform on behalf of all the producers, and the producers all, they have the different categories on there so that their customers can buy, buy the meat from one particular supplier and the milk from another particular supplier, etc., etc. So yeah, it can work in a number of different ways depending on the way that you'd like to do it.
Which is great. And I see, you have a lot of customers all over the UK and Wales and Scotland. And, it was just interesting as well, just to see the amount of Irish farms signed up. And Ronan, I see from Shy by Nature, has joined us. And Ronan, I hope you don't mind me calling on you, but just when I was looking through the website, the OOOOBY website, I just saw you'd put up a nice testimonial. And I think it's always good to hear from a user's point of view as well. So Ronan, if you have the bandwidth with the internet and you didn't mind unmuting and or whatever you feel like with the video, and like even just sharing with us how the platform has been working for you. I know you're selling bread and veg, and it looks really good, the user front anyway, from my visit to your website.
Can you hear me there?
Yeah, we can, Ronan. Yeah, we can.
Good, because it's telling me that I cannot start videos, but at least you can hear me, which is the important thing. Hi, Seb, Pete, been a while.
It has. Hi, Ronan. Nice to see you.
So I don't know. To be honest, I've found OOOOBY really great. And I've listed probably about 10, 15 different things just as you were talking that was really useful. But I guess for me, I started up a veg box in 23. So there's been 2 years, and where I'm only small and with volunteers here, but we're getting out around 30 boxes during the summer season, 50 at Christmas. And it with collection points in Donegal town, Killybegs, Ardra, as well as deliveries. But it's basically enabled me to look much more professional than I actually am. And really, like, there's so much. I mean, I lack time for doing things, but it enables me to actually communicate with the customers relatively easy. Also manage their card details, the money, the billing, all of those kind of things, and it looks so much more professional than I am. And you know, I emphasize I'm really at the small side of it, and you know, there's a lot more that we can do. But I mean, just to pick off a couple of like things that I really like is, you know, I became part of a WhatsApp group which has growers from across, particularly across the UK. So, and you know, it's really nice to be able to see conversations, not just about OOOBY, but sometimes about growing stuff. And it's, you know, you feel like, well, it's not like you feel, you are part of a community. Also, in terms of some of the report side, I find them very useful, which are to do with looking at different finances across the year. And I can see, like, comparing year 1 versus year 2, that we've got a higher margin per customer you know, in what was a hard year for growing. But also then in the mapping side, I can actually see, you know, where most of my customers are, and it kind of indicates to me where could be good collection point boxes where I should be putting them as hopefully, touch wood, we grow. And also in terms of Borbia organic stuff, I found, because I've just become certified organic this year, but I figured out a way with Louise, maybe Seb at the time, to actually label some of my stuff, but also the stuff coming in from I've got bread coming in and microgreens, and also at Christmas time, particularly to get some stuff from other organic farms. So there's a way that, and it's been approved by the Organic Trust. So they've looked at the labeling where we print off, I think it's the manifest, Seb, is it? Which shows all of the items in the box, and they're very happy with it, which saves me having to do individual labels for any kind of products. I have too many other things to note, but support, the support team has been really responsive, and it's very rare that it's more than a few hours or before there's a reply. And a big shout out to Louise in particular, who is as part of the onboarding process. She really handheld me a lot in those first 6 weeks, 8 weeks. And I guess I would end with really, it's just enabled me to like have that direct relationship with customers. I don't have to deal with their cards and get into all of that. I don't want to do that. But also it really, I'd considered like going CSA to begin with, and in the end there just wasn't time due to funding. But what I realized was it was actually really useful with OOOBY, because the customers are paying as they go, so they're not building up a huge, or you know, I don't owe them 300 euros worth of vegetables at the very beginning and having that pressure. But you know, they pay as they go, which is also good from an affordability point of view. And I have it has enabled me to have a system with flexible pricing, so people can order a lower price, or for one size box, I have a lower price, I have a middle price, and a higher price. And it basically has enabled people to meet, well, I think for me to meet people where they're at. So
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah.
It's good.
Well, and that's, you know, it's brilliant. It's great to hear from somebody using it. And, you know, I presume from anyone who uses website, there's nothing more annoying than a headbanging website that you can't navigate, and it's a sure way not to get return business. So it definitely sounds like that streamlining is going to help bring more customers on board. But just another question in from Barry, and just, you know, wondering in that sense, does OOOBY build in any kind of marketing part to the platform as well? Or is, you know, is that up to the farmer?
Yeah, well, firstly, you know, if you think about what the function of marketing is, there's the attracting the customers, and then there's, you know, converting the customers to converting them to customers, and then there is, you know, keeping them. So that's that. In terms of that, what we have done, what the OOOBY system does have is a fair bit of Google juice, because there's so many small farms doing veg boxes and CSAs and so forth on the platform, that you very quickly go up the search rankings when someone's looking for the sort of food that you're offering. So from a marketing point of view, you get the search optimized benefit just by being part of that community on the OOOBY platform. And then the conversion side of it is really, you know, we've always focused on, like, there's two sides to the system to focus on. There is the customer side, and then there's the fulfillment side, or you as an operator side. And a lot of systems are really focused on the operator side, because that's what you look at. That's what we have shown you tonight, is what your experience on the platform would be. But you have to keep remembering there's only one of you, and if you go well, there's hundreds of customers to one of you, and you want their experience to be really good. And so our front end, our customer experience is good, and it converts, and we follow good practices to help to maximize conversion to customers. And on that, we've actually now just releasing a brand new customer interface that has been rebuilt from scratch with all the sort of latest modern, you know, best practices built in, because, you know, technology changes all the time, and so you have to be keeping up. And so we've rebuilt a new user interface, which is far more mobile friendly, far more intuitive, and far more up to speed. So that's being rolled out at the moment to customers. So that part of it is really top notch, and you can rely on that. People are going to turn up, and it'll just feel very natural for them to shop and feel like they know what they're doing. And then the third part is retention, and that's where you want the customer experience when they're coming back and they log into their dashboard, just to do what they want it to do, to be obvious how it works, because that's going to help them to stick around. Like, obviously, if you send them rubbish food, they're not going to stick around. But likewise, if their experience on the screen isn't good, that can be really irritating. With regards to actually, you know, getting customers awareness and, you know, helping to actually drive customers to your site beyond just the search engine, that's something that we're working on. What we've realized is that now that there are, you know, over 100 small scale farms and organic farms running on the platform, we now have a story to tell that's actually quite compelling out to the general public. And that is, did you know that you can actually buy direct from your farm now? And it's as easy, convenient, and often as, you know, very price competitive. And a lot of people are really interested in that. And we're working on a plan where we can create kind of like a public facing interface to help to drive traffic to your websites, where we tell the story, we kind of champion the community of farms on the platform. And so we help to reach customers that you wouldn't be able to reach yourself. But that's probably really not going to be coming into play until the second half of this year. But we've recognized that that's definitely an area that we can play a part with.
Yeah, and I would say, Pete, as I was saying, you've listed a lot of the podcasts that you've taken part in, and, you know, certain ones like the Irish GIY one, that wouldn't be commercial growers, you know, particularly that would listen to that. It would be people interested in growing. And I think, you know, it can be challenging. I hear so many people that I want to eat good organic food, but they're living rurally, they don't know where to get it. So I think it's all part of sharing the story. And this is a question in from Una, and I know some of this you've touched on already. already about how easy it is for the customer to interact with the app. And I suppose just acknowledging as well, farmers can't be good at everything, and just sometimes the technological piece is a real challenge. And just kind of, you know, what are the supports, or how challenging it is for somebody. There seems like there'll be a lot of data that would need to be input and everything to get it using and you know, up and running. Is there support with that, or how difficult is it for the average farmer?
Yeah, I mean, we've thought long and hard and updated the whole onboarding process a lot as we go, based on our learning, and so it's a really nice balance between self onboarding and being handheld through the process as well. So we have a really great I mean, in the system itself we have a great database of articles and guides to help with learning about the process and how to do all the different things. But we have, when somebody wants to get started, the first step is that they book a setup call with one of our onboarding team, and they're all people who have either currently run a veg box scheme or have run a veg box scheme before and have been involved in market gardens for many years. For example, Louise, who Ronan just mentioned there, and they have a call with you for, you know, up to half an hour, where you get to ask questions, and you are set up with a login into your account, and you're set away with a checklist, an online checklist that you can follow in order to get the things set up that need to be set up on the system. You know, we're talking about 5 different tasks, so not a whole lot of tasks that are overwhelming. Just five tasks that allow you to be able to actually have the presence online ready to go live. At that point, you then book a training call with your onboarding lead, who then takes you through how to run the weekly process using the system, and then it's time to go live. And at that point, you then have the ability to check in with our support team via a button on the system, on the dashboard, and also using the articles that we have online as well. So and during that onboarding process, we can, if you have existing customers and existing products, we can also organize an import of your existing customers into the system, so that rather than them having to re-sign up to your scheme at the point at which you go live, they would just need to reset their password and add their card details in at that point. But all of their account would be set up already, any existing balance, any products that they're already signed up to with your scheme prior to coming onto the OOOBY system. So all of that sort of thing we have lots of experience on, having worked with well over 100 box schemes now, and yeah, we handhold you through that as much as, you know, is needed.
Yeah, that sounds like phenomenal support, because everything, you can't get a train or go to a bank, anything anymore. So it's like it's all moving that way. So if everyone gave that support, it would be good. And look, we'll just take a few more questions. Just another one from Una, and I suppose it was just about the delivery side of things, and just kind of liaising with couriers and generating labels and routes. And just, I know that's something that you referred to, that the software system has the ability to come up with kind of optimum routes for your system. And just wondering, have you directly worked with couriers yourselves?
I mean, Pete, do you want to take this one, because you
Yeah, I mean, it's yes, indeed. The system facilitates pickups from your farm. It facilitates deliveries to collection points that you might want to have. It facilitates you doing your own deliveries to your own local area, and you can generate like a delivery manifest in a CSV form that you can send to a courier, that they can then upload into their system to do deliveries on your behalf as well. So the 4 options are there. And, you know, well, Seb was using Zedify, which was a bike courier service around Winchester, alongside doing their own deliveries in their own van. So you can do it. You can do whichever option you like. And you can also set different delivery fees for different zones. So you can have, you know, collect from the farm is free, you know, collect from a collection point at, you know, at a local school or whatever, it'll cost you €1, you know, delivery fee. Delivered to your door, if you're in the sort of the local area, will cost you €5 or €3, and delivered to a further afield, to more of a further distance, you can set that as like a €7 or €6 delivery fee, so that you can counter the cost of actually doing that service with the fee to more than cover the cost of that.
Yeah, so what we had is when we were working with a bike courier, we were delivering into the center of the city, and it made more sense for us to hand that over to the bike courier for the center of the city, because the one-way system is terrible and all that sort of stuff, and it was quicker by bike. So what we did is we created the zones, the different delivery areas, and we had the central zone, and then we had the outer zones, and we handled the outer zones, and with the details of the customers that were inside that central zone, we could hand that over very simply, those details over each week, to the bike courier company, and they then dealt with those. So that worked really nicely.
It sounds great. And then I'm presuming there's just a question, but I presume, like, if somebody has to have their own website or web address as a basic before they can engage with you, or is that something the platform can include or help build as well?
We can. I mean, it's up to you. Again, I think most people like to have their own website address. But if you don't have one, you can have one with the, it can be, how does it work if it's an OOOBY one? I think it's
so, for example, like with us, Hampshire Veg Box, it would be, as an example, if you're using the default domain name, it would be hampshirevegbox.ooby.org, for example.
But if you have your own
domain
name, you use your own domain name. So it's your choice.
Great. Yeah. Well, guys, look, you're after covering a lot, like even the level of detail that you're after given in that presentation. And I'm no way tech-minded, but I actually could understand and follow everything. And I think that's what it's about, isn't it? Because sometimes I think on much as we resisted, well, I do sometimes, everything is moving online. So it's just great to be able to help simplify the process, and just lots of positive, feedback coming in here, and just including the next steps for someone that's interested. So just to let everybody know that we have recorded this this webinar, and it will be going up on the resources page of our website. And as a follow-up, we'll send that to everybody. We'll give the guys email address and how to contact them. I know that both Pete and Seb that have said if people are interested, they can get in contact with them directly. They can set up that one-on-one conversation as an opener to see what you can do. And then apart from that, guys, is there anything else that you want to add?
All I'd say is, if you go to the OOOOBY.com and to the homepage, so if anyone goes to this website, it's just 4rowsby.com. And you can either, in the top right-hand corner there is a Get Started button, where if you click on that, well, you click on it, Seb, and you'll be able to
click on it and complete a short form and press continue, and that will then generate an email that you'll receive where you can book in a setup call. So you can bypass doing a demo again if you felt like what you've seen tonight makes you feel like, yeah, I want to get going, then that would be the way to do it. And you could book up a setup call that I referred to before. Alternatively, you can come to ooooby.com and you can.
Oh, we've lost Seb.
Have you lost me?
Oh, no, we did for a second there, but you're back.
Okay, good. So you can book it. So you can go to ooooby.com and you can press on the book a demo if you'd like to have a one-to-one call, whether you have further questions or anything like that before committing. And this will take you through to book a demo using the online calendar here. So you've got those two options.
That's brilliant. Yeah. Guys, that's great. Thanks a million for joining us tonight,
No worries.
and for flying over for our conference for a 10-minute
Well, that was great.
presentation. And thanks to Sarah, our admin, who's doing all the recording, and no doubt will do all the follow-up. And Ronan, a big thanks to you as well for showing
Thanks, Ronan.
for joining. It's
no-
you know,
no
it's really
problem.
important
Thank
to
you.
hear it from all the perspectives. And thanks to everybody out there who joined us tonight. And we're looking forward to a great year ahead. We have another webinar with the legendary Jim Cronin coming up in 2 weeks. But no doubt I'll be spanning your inboxes around that, so you'll be reminded. So take care, everybody, and thanks for joining.
Thanks very much.
Katie.
Bye-bye. See ya. Bye.
Ciao. Bye.